Yeah, this was, yeah, Israeli occupation forces bombed the home of colleague Tamer al-Mashad in Gaza, presenter of What is Hidden is Greater program of Al Jazeera. We saw him yesterday. I mean, he wasn't in the house, for the record, luckily. But, like, do you think Hamas was there? Or do you think they know exactly where all the journalists live and they bombed the shit out of it anyway? Okay. So now the situation worsens. IDF and Hezbollah are clashing. We have, I was going to talk about the ADL in a second. But yeah, ultimately the goal of the hostage taking, from the Palestinian coalition was specifically so they could soften the blow and would not get direct attacks from Israeli forces. They do not give a shit. They are still bombing the shit out of Gaza. So, and there's a full closure of Gaza as of now. So I think that even if they say, oh, we're going to kill the Israeli hostages, like, Israel doesn't give a shit. Israel doesn't give a shit at all. Even if you fucking personally execute the hostages at that point, Israel's not stopping its bombing campaign. They literally would love it if you openly killed all the hostages on television so they could say, oh, they did this on their own volition. We had no other way of dealing with it. So there is nothing more perfect for the Israeli government than to have to eat the blame, even for a little bit, on the hostages dying inside of Gaza. Because they are dying, and they are going to continue dying, for the record. The Americans, the international hostages, every single one of them is going to die when Israel invades Gaza, and they are dying specifically because like, their water and their electricity is shut off. And that was the main goal of the Palestinian coalition, was to say, look, what you do to us, these people will withstand. You don't see us as humans, but you see them as humans. We want to survive this situation. Don't cut off our electricity. Don't cut off our power. And we want to do a fucking hostage swap inevitably, like we have done before. Do not, do not bomb us, because if you bomb us, then your hostages are going to die. Do not cut off our electricity, because if you cut off our electricity and stop giving us food, then your hostages won't get food. Okay? And Israel was like, yeah, dog, nah, we don't give a fuck. Those guys are dead already.
Targets with dozens of planes over the course of the last 3 hours as a devastatingly bloody war has erupted. The Israeli defense minister says he's given the order to begin a, quote, complete siege 3 days after Hamas launched an attack by land, air, and sea. Major blasts rocked Gaza just minutes ago. Israeli airstrikes raining down on the Palestinian enclave. This days after the coordinated attack by Hamas. Israel says Islamist militants killed 700 people. The Israeli response to this weekend's attack also coming on the ground. Heavy armor and troops have been moving south. But any ground offensive will be complicated by Hamas and its allies holding hostages. The Islamist militants in Gaza claim to be holding more than 100 captives. And that's on top of Palestinian civilians on the ground who will likely be caught up in any fighting. Palestinian officials say more than 500 people have already been killed in Israeli strikes. All this as rocket fire from Gaza continues. Many of the rockets have been intercepted, but some have landed in Israeli territory. You can see the damage here where charred vehicles litter this street in southern Israel. And it's not just the south. There are growing concerns Lebanese militant group Hezbollah will enter the conflict and threaten Israel's northern frontier. Israel says it's already killed armed suspects who entered from the Lebanese side. And it says its helicopters are striking inside Lebanese territory. UN forces have reported explosions near a town on the Lebanese side of the border. For the latest, CNN's Becky Anderson is live in Tel Aviv, Israel. Becky, how have things been unfolding? You and I last spoke around 5 a.m. Eastern time. Quite a lot has happened since.
Yeah, this is central Israel. I've got line of sight down the road towards Gaza from here, about 50 miles, and I've got line of sight towards northern Israel here, the Lebanese.
Oh, also, I did see the fucking, what's her face? The CNN lady, like ducking and covering under Hamas, under a barrage of Hamas missiles. Wonder why they're doing it from the Israeli side. Wonder why the coverage doesn't exist on the Gazan side. Yeah, Clarissa Ward is on the ground, terrified of the Hamas rocket fire that's coming in. And it's odd because she's not in the... Why is she not on the Gazan side? You say she's not allowed in there? That's not true. That's 1,000,000% not true. If you asked Hamas right now, directly went to Hamas and were like, would you like one additional American to be here? Why do you think they got the hostages, dumbass? They would love for journalists to fucking cover the situation on the ground from the Gazan side. Palestinians would love for the journalists to cover the situation from the Gaza side. Why is Associated Press allowed inside of Gaza? Why is Al Jazeera allowed inside of Gaza? You just made that up. You just made that up. The reason why American journalists are having a hard time getting into Gaza or don't want to go into Gaza, don't say why would they risk being a hostage. That's fucking bullshit too. Clarissa Ward herself has interviewed Hamas before. Suck my dick. You do not know anything. These people want to let their message be known. So why the fuck would they kill the journalist? That's what the Israeli side does. Okay? The real reason why they do not want to go to Gaza is because they don't want to get killed. Okay? That's it. They don't want to get killed by IDF missiles, bitch. That's the real reason. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, they don't want to get killed, not by Hamas. They don't want to get killed by Israel, dummy. That's the real reason. Historically, do they ever report from the Gaza side? Of course they do. Of course. They've also, like, literally met with different coalition leaders in the past. Like, they've sat down and talked to people, and people always get confused. They're like, what the fuck? Like, what? Clarissa Ward interviewing ISIS and Al-Qaeda? Like, yeah, no shit, dude. These guys, like, look. It is not a secret that I am not fond of ISIS or Al-Qaeda, unless you're like a psychopathic reactionary who thinks like I love Al-Qaeda or some shit, okay? But at least I still understand that they have goals, okay? As a unit, as an organization, they have goals. They're not simply doing inhumane, bloodthirsty, psychopathic violence for the sake of violence. As a terror cell, they have a goal in getting a message across. So in that situation, who gets your message across? Journalists, okay?
Border, and we are in central Israel, as I said, in Tel Aviv.
Israel kills journalists? Examples? No way, dog. Okay, I'm going to say this is good faith, okay? I'm going to go ahead and say that this is good faith. It has to be, I hope. I mean, some people are. Wait, what do you mean some people are? I mean, they bombed the Associated Press building, guys. What are we talking about? Ne yapıyorsun lan? Amına kodumun FETÖ'cüsü. Senin ananın amını sikerim. FETÖ'cü diyor bana, geri zekalı. Is it literally because I'm Irish that I remember the U.S. citizen journalist that the IDF murdered and then beat the funeral attendees? Yes, that's why you know. Yeah, dude. Israel literally destroyed the Associated Press office in Gaza and then said, sorry, Hamas was there. Like, this also had multiple other journalistic outlets in there. Yeah, dude, all the journalists were collaborating with Hamas. Get the fuck out of here. This reporter got fired for being pro-Palestine. Yeah, Jackson Frank, who recently became the Sixers beat writer for the Philly Voice, was let go following a tweet showing solidarity with Palestine in response to the team's remarks about Israel. Mr. Frank is no longer employed by PhillyVoice.com as of today. Fun time to remind everyone that supporting Israel by saying that you would like to boycott, engage in divestments, and engage in sanctions on Israel as it continues its apartheid regime is illegal in 36 states in the United States of America. This is a very severe violation of the First Amendment laws in the United States of America. And yet nobody talks about it, and it's perfectly allowed. It is so fucking ridiculous. If you support Palestine, you can get fired from your job. You cannot get a job in certain instances. Like in Texas, you have to sign a pledge that you will never support Palestine to become a fucking teacher, and it will never be challenged in the courts. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Why would this be challenged in the courts, brother? What do you mean? It is by design. A Jewish friend of mine expressed solidarity with Palestinians on Facebook and got reported to his boss by psycho Zionists. Yeah. I mean, that is what the Canary mission does. Their whole job is to be like, oh, you support Palestine? You should be fired immediately. Oh, this nurse supports Palestine. They should fire him. And then they do get fired, by the way. If they don't get fired, they get fucking bullied and harassed nonstop. For people who are wondering, list of journalists killed during the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Professional or citizen journalists and media activists killed in Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory. Freelance journalist shot by IDF during the 2023 conflict. Dream radio journalist shot in the chest by IDF en route to a job in Hebron. Al Jazeera journalist shot in the head by Israeli forces. Radio broadcaster killed in his house by Israeli missile strikes. Photographer shot in the abdomen by the IDF. Video journalist shot in the abdomen by IDF sniper. Associated Press journalist killed by live bomb dropped by IDF on soccer field in the Gaza Strip. Al Resala newspaper editor who was critically injured by an Israeli strike on his house on July 20th and died 11 days later. Palestine Network for Press and Media cameraman killed in Israeli bombing of a market in Gaza. Al-Aqsa TV cameraman killed in Israeli bombing of a market in Gaza. Former Palestine national football team player and sports television presenter killed in Israeli bombing of his building as he slept. Continued TV cameraman killed by Israeli shelling. Driver for Media 24 knew killed in his car by Israeli airstrike. Al-Aqsa TV cameraman killed in his car by Israeli missile airstrike. Al-Quds educational radio employee killed in car by Israeli missile strike. Italian activist, newspaper and radio journalist, and International Solidarity Movement member kidnapped and murdered by extreme Gazan group Tahwid al-Jihad. There you go. So far, one. Back to Palestinian media and communication company cameraman killed by Israeli airstrike. Reuters cameraman killed by flechette shell during the Al Bureij massacre. Editor and distributor of Daily Palestine newspaper beaten and shot by gunmen in presidential guard uniforms, potentially Fatah. Now we're gotten to 2007. So now we're talking about like, some. That's another one. Okay, there's two. Radio correspondent and freelance photographer shot in the stomach by IDF. Magazine journalist and advisor to President Yasser Arafat shot outside of his office by gunmen of unknown but suspected Palestinian origin. Documentary filmmaker shot in the neck by IDF. Freelance photographer shot in the head by IDF. Voice of Palestine radio host shot in the head by IDF sniper during the protest against the siege of Palestinian National Authority headquarters. Freelance photographer shot in the leg by IDF. Freelance photographer shot 6 times in the chest by IDF. Najah press officer and Islam Online reporter killed in Israeli bombing of Palestinian Center for Studies in Media. Kuwait news agency correspondent killed in Israeli bombing of Palestinian Center for Studies in Media. Wafa reporter killed in explosion of unknown origin. So, and this is before we get to the professional or citizen journalist, media activists killed outside of Israel and the occupied territory. Do you think that there is any equivalence here? Do you think that one side cares about free speech and free press? Like, what's going on? How does this work? Explain this to me. Explain this to me. Damn, if Hamas dresses journalists, the IDF don't miss. This is part of the reason why people have been incredibly... My bro, you literally have people in here saying they were marked as journalists after they died for martyrdom purposes. I swear to God, this chat gives me brainworms. Yes, all secret agents of Hamas. Hamas is in every fucking shadow. It's in every corner until it literally does become the truth, for the record. Now, one thing you need to understand... One thing you need to understand here, okay? There is an asymmetry to the violence, of course, because one is a colonial apartheid state. The other is militias formed out of the rubbles of the victims of said colonial apartheid state, okay? That's why all of the fucking conversations revolve around the hypothetical of like, what if Hamas actually joined... what if Hamas actually was able to, take over the entirety of Israel and then they would do an ethnic cleansing? It's like, yeah, dude. Yeah, exactly. Except if Palestinians had full control over historic Palestine, Hamas would not be the major fucking power player, because Hamas only exists and has life breath into it specifically because of Israel's endless occupation and blood and soil conquest. Okay? That's it. And Bibi Netanyahu knows this reality. Okay? What is the motive for Hamas? Is it ending in apartheid or is it taking a piece of land? Genuine question. I I don't know what the exact motives of Hamas are, but I know the Palestinian motive is to, in the short term, stop the brutality. That is what Palestinians want, is to stop being bombed, is to stop having their homes taken from them, is to live a life of dignity. Live a life of peace and dignity. Not have their hospitals bombed, not have their schools bombed in Gaza, and be able to live in the West Bank freely as is supposed to be the legal rights that they have. That is what the Palestinian need is. As far as Hamas goes, I don't know what Hamas's genuine interest is beyond, I guess, like controlling Gaza and also having a unified interest in ridding Gaza of the open air prison status that it currently has. I am serious, yes. Do I think Hamas will be able to achieve that? I don't know. It is entirely in the hands of Israel. Israel has the opportunity and has had the opportunity time and time again to collaborate with Palestinian officials and treat them with dignity and humanity and treat the Palestinian people in the West Bank with dignity, and yet they have consistently engaged in ethnic displacement. So tell me why or how Palestinians are supposed to struggle. And let me use another example here. Okay? Let me use another example here. People get so mad at the violent ways in which Palestinians have reacted to their circumstances. Okay? Which is, you know, maybe you are genuinely a humanitarian and across the board you don't think that violence is permissible in any circumstance whatsoever. Okay? Fine. But if that's the case, then why is every American currently losing their fucking mind? Every American politician is losing their mind that Americans are exercising their First Amendment rights to support Palestinian liberation, Palestinian emancipation, which would literally help the Israeli security in and of itself. So why is it? So which way does the Western man go? Which way does the Palestinian go? They get yelled at if they are peacefully protesting. They get shot by sniper rifle if they're peacefully protesting. They get shot all the time for just existing in the vicinity of an Israeli settler in the West Bank. They get bombed for being born on the other side of a border wall. And then even if they do protests saying Palestinians are human, they deserve dignity, they deserve to be free, people still yell. So what is it? Is there a permissible way to defend Palestinians that people will say, you know, that's actually appropriate? I will allow that. Go ahead, please. Shackle us that want to defend Palestinians. Go ahead. Explain to us what the boundaries are. Is there any legally permissible way of defending Palestinian dignity and Palestinian lives that anyone will ever think is appropriate?
On Saturday morning.
Well, this is not the right question, Louis. Really, the right
it's
question.
An important question.
No, it is not an important question because
whether you support their action or not is an important question.
No. It is not an important question. Hamas is a group, is a militant group. You're talking with the Palestinian representative. Our position is very well known and clear.
And what is that? Do you support Hamas's actions?
And then you cannot equate. This is not about support or not support. I am here to represent my people, the Palestinian people, what they are going through. I'm not here to condemn anybody. And if anybody that needs to be condemned, it's what you call the only democracy in the Middle East, that is Israel, between parentheses, that is doing what you have just reported, targeting civilians. And this has not just happened the last 48 hours.
Hamas was just targeting Palestinians, but you won't condemn that.
I'll tell you one thing. Hamas is not the Palestinian government, okay? The Israeli government is giving orders for its organized army. So please don't draw any symmetry here. Don't equate. There is no way you can draw any symmetry. And don't equate between the occupied and the occupier. This doesn't.
Yeah. Oh, so good. He's so right. Exactly.
Serve justice to understand for your audience and viewers the real situation. Since Israel's establishment, it has had one military doctrine. When it fights, it goes and fights civilians, kill civilians, so they pressure the fighters since 1948, and go back to the record. And this has been repeated in Gaza and will continue to be repeated. So the conversation is not a blame game. I am not in the business of blaming the victim here. The real conversation is, how do we stop this vicious, deadly cycle?
You just condemned Israel for killing civilians, and you won't condemn Hamas for killing civilians.
How many times you have interviewed Israeli officials, Louise? Hundreds of times. Hundreds of times. How many times Israel have committed war crimes right live on your own cameras? Do you start by asking them to condemn themselves? Have you? You don't. You don't. No, I'll answer that question. You don't. You know why I refuse to answer this question? Because I refuse the premise of it. Because at the very heart of it is misrepresentation of the whole thing. Because it's the Palestinians that are always expected to condemn themselves. I mean, come on, this is a political conflict. We have been denied our rights for a long time. So this is the wrong starting point. The right starting point is to focus on the root causes, is to try and get out of this extreme dark tunnel, as opposed to this business by BBC and the mainstream media for 75 years. You bring us here whenever there are Israelis who are killed. Did you bring me here when many Palestinians in the West Bank, more than 200 over the last few months? Do you invite me when there is such Israeli provocations?
I'm a Palestinian citizen living in the West Bank. I'm a peaceful citizen. I didn't go to any protest, nor I post anything about Israel and Palestine conflict, yet I am targeted by every settler by existing. I was attacked not once nor twice, and I am just scared of being shot for no reason and not getting justice. This is the daily existence of Palestinians living in the fucking West Bank. They have no rights. The entire fucking military occupying force apparatus is against them. The goal is openly and very clearly defined by the Israeli state to ethnically displace every single Palestinian living in West Bank, regardless of fucking creed, regardless of language, regardless of religious beliefs, because there's plenty of fucking Palestinian Christians that live there as well. Okay? The goal is deliberately to kick them out. There is a reason why if you live in the fucking West Bank and you leave the West Bank, you can't come back in. Think about that. That is really important to understand, because whenever people say, what do you say to the Palestinians refusing a two-state solution time and time again? Are you fucking blind? Are you fucking stupid? Or are you a bloodthirsty jackal who wants the continuation of the apartheid? That you are further to the right than the Israeli security apparatus in this moment? Peaceful coexistence in the two-state solution that supposedly is in the hands of Palestinians is the West Bank. Do you think that they are happy? Do you think that they live a life of dignity? Or do you think their lives are controlled by checkpoints, by Israeli partitions, and that there will never be a two-state solution because Israel will never allow it? Two-state solution is just a continuation of apartheid. It's a justification for doing slow burn ethnic cleansing to make the lives of Palestinians living in the West Bank as miserable as fucking possible by sometimes directly killing them or at least delegating that responsibility into the hands of the settler colonial psychopaths and then defending them at every fucking turn with the occupying police force. That is your fucking two-state solution that the Palestinians supposedly have ignored or said no to. What living is that? What kind of existence is that? Many of you would absolutely, if you defend Israel unconditionally, many of you would defend South African apartheid 100%. It is so real. It is so disgusting. You are in denial. You want to think that you are above it. Everybody wants to think they're a Nat Turner defender. Everybody wants to think that they're a John Brown defender. Everybody wants to think that they would be on the side of the liberating cause, the emancipators in all of the historic battles that have played out, and yet you're showing your ass. There is an opportunity for you to take the right side in this circumstance, and you are choosing the opposite. And you're doing that either because you have been duped, maybe because you have been misguided, or because you know the facts and you don't care. It is not hard to pick the good side. You are out of your fucking mind, dude. No, that's crazy. That is fucking crazy to say that under an apartheid regime, you have those who are colonized and those who are doing the colonizing, and you go, it's too hard. I don't know. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know whose side to be on. Can you explain why Palestinians are allowed to live in Israel, but Israelites cannot live in the West Bank? I love you, chatter. Thank you. These are the reason why I love these takes is because these are like every single propaganda point I've heard throughout my entire past 10 years of publicly defending Palestine. Okay, I've heard this a million times over. Okay, first and foremost, what fucking Israeli wants to live in the West Bank? First of all, you meant Gaza, okay, not the West Bank. Okay, you meant Gaza, not the West Bank. That's number one. Because the actual propaganda is like, oh, well, Israelis can't live in the West Bank. Or Israelis can't live in the Gaza, not West Bank. Israelis do live in the West Bank. So they shouldn't, but they do. Okay? So you didn't even do the propaganda right. I'm responding to the actual propaganda that you're supposed to do. So next time you want to do that, say that instead. Okay? Explain why Israelis don't live in Haiti. Yeah, exactly. This must mean that Haiti is deeply anti-Semitic. The West Bank is supposed to be the tiny marginal fucking land remaining for the Palestinians that are supposed to be there. Their entire leadership collaborates with Israel. Okay? As far as Gaza goes, Israel unilaterally pulled out of Gaza so they could erect a wall around it. That is true, so they could fucking make it an open-air prison. But as far as Israelis living in the West Bank, this is not a peaceful existence. This is not a peaceful coexistence. This is called, and there is a term for this in political science, settler colonialist terrorism. Okay? Settler terrorism is the appropriate term. They are not simply coexisting and erecting monuments side by side with the Palestinians and living alongside them and collaborating as though they are neighbors. They are going from Long Island to the West Bank to sit on top of the houses where Palestinians currently live. And the only way that they are able to do so is because of the violent military occupying force of another country. Technically, if you believe in a two-state solution, you are supposed to say that's West Bank. They are supposed to have their own authority. They're supposed to have their own standing military. They're supposed to have their own courts, but they do not have any of those things. Okay? These people are not just going, oh man, that'd be so sick if we could just like sit here. You paint this issue so black and white when it isn't. No, my friend, the unfortunate reality is that you are so blinded by propaganda that when I tell you factually accurate information, it hurts your feelings. So you can't actually respond to the information and go, maybe I should re-examine my perspective on the matter. No, I will attack the messenger instead. I will attack the person who is, for the first time perhaps in my entire life, giving me what is actually going on the ground. Why are you pretending Gaza doesn't have a border with Egypt? Hamas does not control the border with Egypt. Egypt controls the border. Egypt also collaborates with the Israeli government. The notion that like all matter of goods that go into Gaza is not controlled by Israel is a silly one. Israelis themselves or the Israeli government themselves openly recognize this reality. You are simply using propaganda talking points that are very clearly and very quickly destroyed by the actions of Israel today. If you are asking me, oh, I can't believe you're saying this is an open prison, for example, how the fuck is Israel controlling the food supply going into Gaza? How did the defense ministry come out and say, we are stopping the food from going into Gaza today. We are stopping the electricity from being run in Gaza today. We are stopping the clean water from being accessible in Gaza today. How can they do that if they actually have a way out? Oh, for the record, that border that you said Egypt has with Gaza was closed already, and then Israel bombed it. But they don't kill civilians? Yeah, no, it's just a oopsie. This, oopsie, right? 6,407 Palestinian deaths from 2008 to 2023. Before the, until August 31st, 2023, before the last little back and forth that we're in currently. Was this a oopsie, you think? How did this happen? 152,560 Palestinians were injured in the process too, shot deliberately by Israeli sniper fire in their peaceful demonstrations after 2018. Many of those people were shot down and maimed deliberately by IDF snipers. Israel doesn't kill civilians. Israel demands correction from Sanders. It only killed 533 Palestinian children in the summer of 2014. Yeah. Oh, they warn civilians before they destroy anything. Oh, dude, got it. Chatters who have been in here. Chatters who have been in here for the past 7 hours yesterday and the past 3 hours today will notice a trend in here. The talking points always go back to the same talking points. These talking points only work if you are captive in an echo chamber. Okay? When you move outside of that echo chamber and try to pull that shit in a community that is a little bit more informed and better equipped, all of a sudden, they perish. These arguments fall apart because the arguments are fucking insane. Because the unfortunate reality is, for all of those who want to legitimately defend the apartheid state of Israel, well, at a certain point, you got to at least be as honest as the far-right elements in your country. Okay? That's the reality. At least the psychopathic dogs like Ben-Gvir are honest about their goals. Okay? They're right. They want to do ethnic cleansing. That is correct. They're brutal, but they're honest. Palestine people go to Israel and live there in safety. Yeah, and Palestine is unsafe because of Israel. And Palestinian people do not have any safety inside of Israeli borders. So there you go. If I blew up your fucking house and gave you a 15-minute warning, I don't think you would have this kind of opinion. I think you would literally rise up and grab the first gun you could find and try and kill me. Okay? Hasan is the propaganda machine. This is wild. Yeah. What's the counterpoint then? Also, was the breakdown of civilians versus Hamas/terrorists? Your numbers, statistics don't show any of those breakdowns. I mean, okay, that's a good take, right? I don't know. Maybe 2 million people living inside of the Gaza Strip and 47% of them being under the age of 14 or the age of 14 should show you that routinely bombing and stopping food from going in there is completely insane, unless you think 14-year-old and under are all also Hamas. You think that's cool? You think that's a justified act? No. Here's what the fucking troll says. And I will tell you. They are using the human shields. They're using those babies as human shields. That's what Hamas does. Yeah? Is that what they do? Where are they supposed to go? And why are you a mindless robot? Why are you killing the children? Stop killing the children. There you go. Bombing entire city blocks. Oh, by the way, this is also correct. You're not supposed to start the two-front war voluntarily, you dumbasses. Israel strikes Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. So now southern Lebanon, or at least Hezbollah, will go into battle as well.
In Jerusalem and elsewhere. Because Israel, what Israelis have seen, which we started by saying tragic, the last 48 hours, the Palestinians see every day for the last 50 years. You know the situation in Gaza, you've just described it. This is the biggest open-air prison. Those people, 2 million, have been taken hostage by Israel for the last 16 years. So I'm saying this just to say, Louise, perhaps this is about time we abandon this rhetoric, very dangerous, this framework, and we start giving people the real ugly truth sometimes.
What is the solution in your eyes?
International law. That's it.
What does that mean?
The equal application of international resolutions and law and legitimacy, as you did in Ukraine. Would you bring the Ukrainian ambassador here and start asking him to condemn if some of his fighters? We need to fully and equally apply the rules that were created by the League of Nations after the horrors of the Second World War. We need to make sure that Israel is not the exception. It has been for the last 75 years. We need to make sure that nobody is above the law. Britain is renowned, Louise, for the rule of law. I think that's the solution. Israel is an occupying force. It is responsible to provide protection for the people under its occupation. And should they commit crimes and crimes against humanity in the coming hours and weeks, it must be held accountable by the international community and the international judicial system.
Why are people saying, say, open air prison because it's a city? Technically, it doesn't have a roof over its head, partially because it makes it easier to fucking bomb by Israel, but I don't know. I read a lot of old New York Times articles on South Africa's two-state solution of Bantustans and reserves, and the white government sure seem pretty equitable. I trust them. They're definitely reporting on this conflict accurately. Yeah. Israel has been carrying out a genocide for decades without consequences. They'll start a two-front war if they want. They assume that the rules don't apply to them, and for good reason, because the rules have not applied to them until now. But there is one thing. Rules don't apply to them, and yet there is one thing that they have, limitations, okay? You can only fight battles on two fronts for so long. One thing you always have to consider is that, first of all, you're not working with like a lackluster, shitty Egyptian military, okay? You're working against a individuals that have hardened, battle-tested dudes that are very good at launching insurgency campaigns. So that's number one. Okay, if we're talking about Hezbollah. And two, no matter how much support you have, you literally, and no matter how much international support you have, no matter how much U.S. support you have to remember something. And then you have the IRGC as well. But I'm not even getting into that. You have a standing military. You have a standing military that is comprised of dudes who have not fought real insurgency battles for years. Your standing military is used to fighting, not ISIS, not fucking Al-Qaeda or anyone else. Your standing military is used to fighting 14-year-old Palestinians that are throwing rocks, civilians. That is the reason why what happened yesterday and a day one more yesterday, the day before happened. Okay, because the IDF was not ready to fucking actually defend Israel against like genuine attack. Anyway, how can you say that the pen is mightier than the sword and have gotten really good at killing journalists? Yeah, maybe, perhaps, if the Hezbollah wore press vests as they tried to infiltrate Israel, then they could get fucking absolutely eviscerated. But for the time being, I don't think that would pan out well. Nobody wants conflict at the end of the day. That only is a continuation of the harm. That only is a continuation of the conflict. That only is a continuation of the bloodshed for no reason. Now let's continue with the Israel orders complete closure of Gaza. Every day there is a massive amount of news stories that I want to get through, and I simply cannot get through it because I don't have it in me to watch mainstream media. It hurts my soul. Okay, it hurts my fucking soul when I see the coverage afforded to the situation. Very rarely do they have a decent understanding of the situation, or very rarely do they actually offer the dignity to the Palestinian people, see them as human beings. Very fucked up.
Lviv, where we have continued to hear all day the kind of low-level rumblings, booms, the Iron Dome intercepting incoming rockets from Gaza fired by Hamas towards Tel Aviv and Ben Gurion Airport. We've got some evidence this morning when an engineer was coming in that there was an explosion just south of the airport here. Everybody hit the deck there.
Yeah, this is the other thing I said last night, which many people got mad at me for. I wonder if people will consider why Haaretz, Amnesty International, an IDF veterans group, the father of one of the Israeli women held hostage, and hundreds of other organizations correctly recognize the root cause of the violence as Israel's occupation. Everyone that is involved in this, and everyone that is like looking at it not with like bloodthirst, okay, with bloodlust, everyone that's looking at this situation in an honest way realizes why it's happening and realizes the only way to stop it, okay? But there is no democracy, there is no democratic process, and I don't even know what the democratic process would look like if they were to hold a referendum on genociding all Palestinians, okay? Sad.
And so, you know, the intensity of this, I think, is really the story of the hour, you know, and the fact that we have Gaza in play, Tel Aviv and Jerusalem hearing sirens because there are incoming attacks or incoming rockets from Hamas, and then to the north here, the potential for something significant happening on the Lebanese-Israeli border. It is a ratcheting up, there is no doubt, in what is this very bloody conflict, Casey.
All right, Becky Anderson in Tel Aviv. Stay safe, Becky. We will be coming back with you much more throughout this hour. But joining us now from Jerusalem is CNN's Ben Wiedemann. Ben, Jerusalem, of course, one of the places where these sirens have been heard. What's the latest there?
Yeah, Casey, about an hour and a half ago, we heard the sirens go off and then some distant thuds. We understand there may have been as many as 10 intercepts. And there are reports coming from the Israeli Medical Service that several people were injured on the outskirts of Jerusalem. It's not clear if that was an impact or, as I've seen myself before, when the Iron Dome intercepts incoming missiles, there's a lot of shrapnel that falls to the ground. So that may have been the cause for those injuries as this conflict intensifies. What we have heard so far today, for instance, Yoav Gallant, the Israeli defense minister, has ordered what he called a complete siege on Gaza, cutting off all food, electricity, and fuel to a place where 2 million people are living. Now, according to the World Food Program, 63% of the population of Gaza is, quote, food insecure. The Israelis are, of course, preparing, by all accounts, for a massive ground invasion into Gaza.
I like that. I like that this guy, maybe talk to Tobias Hutch. What did he say about Hamas killing random people? Okay. He doesn't know what I've said about Hamas killing random people. And he just makes an inference. So many vids of people supporting Palestina, Ho chant, kill all Jews. Any clips about what he said about Hamas killing people at a festival for no reason. And then he goes, Hasan acts like he knows everything, but he doesn't know anything. So sad. Bitch, don't you feel like you don't know anything? You're asking chatters, okay? You've made up your mind about what my perspective is. You have no idea what it is. You're asking chatters to clear it up for you while simultaneously saying, I don't know anything. I mean, I have a video out on my YouTube page if you want to watch it. Bro, my keyboard doesn't work. It takes me minutes to type anything. Why would I seal? Okay, got it. It's odd that you literally came in here trying to comprehend, even though you had a perspective of what you think I said. You came in here trying to comprehend what my genuine opinion is, and before even figuring it out, you started saying Hasan doesn't know anything. Don't you feel like that's a bit self-defeating?
Sending lots of armor in that direction. Now, it's not clear how far they're going to go, but certainly in 2008, 2009, when there was a prolonged outbreak of violence between Gaza and Israel, the Israelis did cut the Gaza Strip in half, but they avoided going into population centers. In 2014, Israeli forces entered the Gaza Strip, but yet again avoided going into population centers. Now, the expectation is this time, given the gravity of the situation, the Israeli operation in Gaza will be much more extensive. It may take
Propaganda / gut human reactions are fucking terrifying. I'm an Israeli and my cousin just died in this conflict. How am I supposed to ever preach to my family ever again about my opinion that Hamas's entire reason for existing is the IDF sketchy operations, abhorrent right-wing Jewish settlers, and first of all, I'm sorry for your loss. Abhorrent right-wing Jewish settlers and general Arab hatred after an Arab Palestinian literally killed a family of ours. The IDF, Israel's media channels on all political spectrums, and most of all right-winged insane monsters like Netanyahu and Ben Gvir are to blame for this instance, this fucking situation, where even the extremely few Israelis who realize who's really at fault have no way to convince any other person of their opinion, much less get a politician to do something about it. There's one guy in the fucking Knesset that said it is actually the fault of Israel. Except, chatter, don't lose out hope. There is not much you can do. There is not much you can do in this circumstance. I'm sorry for your loss. You just have to keep fighting the good fight. And your cause is just. You're right. And the irony is, of course, the dark irony is, of course, that the Israeli security apparatus, okay, the ones that are not like baying for blood, even though there aren't that many left, it seems, have time and time again said that the extreme thirst from the treatment of settlers, the extreme thirst of like settler terrorism on the West Bank is directly a security flaw for the Israeli state, is not just the assessment of someone like myself, who has always unconditionally supported the emancipation for Palestinian people, but is the assessment of like Israel's own internal intelligence communities. Because fascism does not stop. Fascism only continues to find new enemies and constantly fucking exercise jingoistic, hyper-militant attitudes, and it only has to expand on the violence until that violence comes back and hurts the inner core. It always needs another. The issue is, like, given the long history of anti-fascist action from Jewish people, it's shocking that there aren't more people that are able to push back. Propaganda is very strong. I mean, I can't say anything. I mean, I live in America. Look at our situation, you know? Hey, just want to let you know it's customary in the Jewish faith that you are not supposed to necessarily say sorry for your loss or rest in peace. The customary thing is they are of blessed memory. We celebrate the life of the deceased rather than mourning their death. Hope that helps. I like that. Leftism is seen as a joke in Israel for obvious reasons, dude. What the fuck? It's like it is literally designed as a state with the displacement of Palestinians. Of course, leftism is seen as a fucking joke. Bro, they killed their more tolerant Zionists. Like, what are we talking about? The guy who celebrated that execution is now in the government. There is a guy by the name of Ben Gvir who is now in the Israeli government, who is supposed to be running the West Bank, okay, the occupation, who literally was declared a terrorist and too extreme to serve in the IDF. Of course. Do we not feel like there is probably going to be some spiritual residue there if that is the norm? Hey, he has a Israeli mass shooter portrait in his house.
Time for that to happen, but of course what we're seeing is that there are, according to the Israelis today, so far 130 strikes in Gaza, they say, on Hamas targets. But what we've seen is that they seem to have done away with what's known as the knock on the roof, where a small explosion is or explosive device is directed at the building. They plan on hitting as sort of a warning shot for people to leave. Sometimes the Israelis will actually call people in the building and tell them to evacuate. It doesn't seem to be happening at the moment. In Jabalia, in the northern part, in the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza, there was a strike earlier today. The extent of damage from the videos we're seeing is massive. There's talk of as many as 50 people being killed in that strike alone. And I think the expectation people in Gaza is that this is just the beginning of what's going to be a very long and difficult period.
Ben Wiedemann in Jerusalem, thank you very much for that. We're going to dive into all of this now with today's panel. Natan Sachs is the director of the Brookings Institution Center for Middle East Policy. Vivian Salama, a national security reporter for the Wall Street Journal. And David Sanger is CNN's political and national security analyst. He also serves as a White House and national security correspondent at the New York Times. And David, let me start with you because you have covered this your whole career, essentially, and can help us understand. Ben was walking us through some of what may happen in the Gaza Strip in the coming days. Really unprecedented.
It is, and it poses a whole series of dilemmas for Prime Minister Netanyahu, his government.
Like, they would never, I feel like they would never cover the actions of Hamas with the same way. And one is a disorganized, like, band of individuals that don't have access to fucking adequate training or weapons, like no real rules of engagement. The other is a fucking state. Okay? The other is not just a state, not just any state, but one of the most militant states out there who gets unlimited funds from the United States of America in general. And they're like, oh, one of the most, sophisticated militaries in the world is just, they got a real situation on their hands. They have to really think about, like, a reasoned, tempered response when they eviscerate entire city blocks in Gaza. It's nuts, man. It's fucking nuts. I have covered Itamar Ben-Gvir. Yeah, I have extensively covered him.
For President Biden as he tries to support the Israelis. So the first dilemma is, what do you do about the hostages? There are, as you said, more than 100. We've been reporting at the Times the number may be closer to 150. Clearly some of those are also American citizens, although we don't know how many. But in any case, hostages for any society is a big deal, and for Israel, as you know, it's going to be a huge issue. So they've got competing.
It turns out it's not, by the way. Like, they literally don't give a shit. Which is, again, yet another circumstance where you have failed to correctly assess the inhumanity of your oppressors. You thought, incorrectly, that they would go, well, you have Israeli citizens in your hands. We care about the protection of Israeli citizens. Meanwhile, if they cared about the protection of Israeli citizens, they would do a better job of trying to fucking stop the Palestinian the Palestinian incursion into the borders of Israel. They're not even doing that. They went on the genocide route. They skipped a step. It's crazy. And yes, if you think personally that if you thought that Israel would be more careful and considerate about their own citizens being held hostage by Palestinians who have openly stated that the real reason for why they're doing that is so that they can at least have some leverage against against Gaza being leveled and reduce the rubble. Okay. And you thought Israel would be more careful with their tactics. Well, I guess, we were all wrong. I was wrong too. What happens if Israel bombs U.S. hostages? Brother, I think at this point, the state of Israel is not even listening to their own internal communications about refusing to be ruthless, even in the West Bank. They don't care. I think they're just moving towards just active genocide.
Instincts here.
Stop saying roof knocking, please. I'm gonna fucking roof knock myself, dude. Oh my God. Brother, you have to be insane if you think that dropping a fucking dud 15 minutes before completely leveling a residential building is adequate, and it's actually somehow moral, especially when it doesn't matter. It's still a fucking war crime. You cannot blow up civilian fucking buildings, okay? Israel is so used to doing that it doesn't fucking matter. Nobody says anything about it. And ultimately, it doesn't even matter because apparently they're stopped. And why shouldn't they stop? What the fuck are you going to do? What is anyone else going to do? What are they going to say? They're blowing up their own open-air prison. Where, again, the average age is 18. They're blowing up their open-air prison. They've killed 6,000 plus people before this, by August 31st, between 2000 and 2008. I mean, between 2000 and now. Okay? They're still destroying people's homes, and you think like, man, it's fine. It's totally fine. Something to also consider that many of you refuse to consider is that, like, 47% or more than 40% of the entire population is 14 and under. Okay? Yeah, Hasan bombing and blew up a hospital. This isn't to inform civilians. Exactly. It's to make it seem like it's to give dumbasses an opportunity to try and defend Israel in a very pathetic way, where anyone who has a shred of humanity and doesn't fucking and doesn't consider Palestinians to be like subhuman filth that deserve to be excised is going to look at you like you're a fucking animal. Because you are. You are an animal. You're a bloodthirsty animal if you think that, like, oh, well, they do warnings before they blow up an entire fucking apartment complex. And people still die in said apartment complex. Gaza is one of the most densely packed open-air prisons of the fucking planet. Oh. It's cool, man. I announced my war crime. So it's fine, actually. Like, what difference does it make if they're fucking doing the warnings beforehand and now they've even stopped doing it when you have the military openly stating we have control over the food, we have control over the water, we have control over the electricity, we've shut off all three of those things, okay, into Gaza, and that is because the enemy we are fighting are human animals. They're beasts. They're not human. That's what an official said. They announced it. That in and of itself is literally a war crime. Like, what are we doing? It's so fucking stupid to have this conversation over and over again as though this is, like, not appropriate. Hey, at least they announced it first. Technically not a war crime according to the doctrine if there's actionable intelligence towards pointing towards a civilian building being dual-use targets. I do not support Israel, though. Yeah, also, that's a lie. It is not a dual-use target. And it's still a fucking war crime regardless. You know what is a war crime? Shutting off fucking water to the people that you're trying to starve out. It's called collective punishment. You know, collective punishment is a war crime. I don't get how you can sit there and justify any of that, dude. Don't get mad at us for being war criminals when we told you we were going to commit a war crime. Yeah, it's like at the top of the hour, I warn you that there's a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, I tell you, you can just subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. And then you're still fucking caught off guard. It's an excuse to say that they warned all the civilians away and only the people there are violent militants. That is what the military did in Fallujah. It's a way to cover their ass to justify bombing civilian targets. Yes, exactly. The most moral military, baby. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Thank you, Cap Calloway, for the 5 Get This subs.
One is to go in to clear out Hamas, and the second is...
There isn't many other broadcasts talking about this from the Palestine side, probably because it's legit dangerous. Thank you for not holding back. I mean, it's not... I don't know. I don't think it's dangerous. For me, it's not. If you're in Palestine, then yes.
Saving the lives of those hostages, and the hostages presumably are in tunnels or in the middle of Gaza. The second problem is, it's one thing to go into Gaza, which we have seen happen before, though not in a long time. It's another thing to stay in Gaza. right? And this is the same problem the United States faced when it went into Afghanistan, when it went into Iraq, because at some point, if you become an occupying force, you just get a constant guerrilla war. So the Israeli government's going to have to make it.
Yeah, genocide. Like, he's literally saying it. He's like, the Israeli government has to make a decision that you can't be a constant occupying force. You just have to genocide them.
Decision about how far does it want to go. And the third issue, and you're seeing it right in these.
Like, can you imagine the callous indifference? Like, dude, you're covering the options, and one of them is literally the final solution. Like, to the Jewish question, but instead of the Jewish question is the Palestinian question. It's fucking crazy. I agree with you 100%. What do you say to the people who argue Hamas is taking shelter in civilian buildings? Brother, it's fucking bullshit. They blow up literally the Associated Press office. They blow up the Associated Press office publicly, okay? Like, they blow up hubs of journalism, okay? You think those journalists don't realize, oh, wow, I had no idea that Hamas was in the fucking basement. No, there is no proof. There is no proof that Hamas is ever in any of these fucking buildings. It's a lie, okay? It's a lie. They're lying. The fuck are you talking about? Not only are they lying, okay, but also on top of that, even if they were being correct, even if there are like Hamas militants in a fucking hospital, ask yourself, is that okay? Yeah, Hamas is baiting them into committing genocide. They really didn't want to do it. Guys, you don't understand. Israel really didn't want to fucking bomb the children's hospital, but just, man, they have Hamas in there, so they just had to fucking kill all the children in the children's hospital. What were Hamas expecting from the result of their terrorist actions? This is such a fucking funny take, man. That's great. That's awesome. You fucking spit on the Israeli flag, and then you try to fucking duke it out with me. It's like half of these motherfuckers don't even have any genuine opinion on the matter. They just want to fight.
These pictures here is going to be one of proportionality. Right? It's been tragic for the Israelis. We think there are about 700 dead. You could see numbers that went way above that fairly quickly if the Israelis sustain this kind of a campaign. And many Palestinians living in Gaza are not fans of Hamas.
Natan, this is a region you spend all of your time focused on. You obviously have deep ties to Israel itself.
Yeah, they killed a journalist who was an American and Palestinian dual citizen who was wearing a press vest and a helmet that said press by shooting her in the neck. And then they went and beat up people carrying her coffin when she had a Christian funeral, okay, because she was a Christian Palestinian, and then broke into her hearth to rip off the Palestinian flag from her coffin. And even in death, they did not allow the Palestinians to have peace. So what the fuck do you expect? There is no, like, I genuinely sometimes feel like I'm having an argument with people that I've had time and time again when they try to defend the actions of Nazi Germany, okay? There are a lot of neo-Nazis that I duke it out with on a regular basis. They're anti-Semitic as fuck, and they routinely speak from both sides of their fucking mouths about all of the issues that have happened, all of the evil that they subjected people to, okay? It's like you cannot, there's a certain point where you literally can just, this was fucked up. It is so shocking that I have to literally sit here and well, ironic because, you know, Bibi Netanyahu is a Holocaust revisionist. But I don't understand. I don't understand what you expect here. Like, what is the situation here? Like, what do you think Palestinian people are supposed to do when they fucking peacefully protest? They get shot and they get bombed. When they violently retaliate, they get shot and they get bombed. When they don't do anything and they're not even a part of like the Gaza Strip, they get shot, they lose their houses, and they get fucking humiliated by a bunch of settlers who are now armed and have full support of the state. What are they supposed to do? You just want them to quietly die. Just fucking say it. You know what I mean? At that point, you want them to quietly fucking die. You want them to quietly die. You can say, are you justifying terrorism law all day, every day? Israel's current existence is a terrorist state, okay? It is doing terrorism to Palestinians on a daily fucking basis. It is an apartheid state. That is not my opinion. That is the opinion of the former head of Mossad. That is the opinion of former prime ministers. That is the opinion of every fucking Human Rights Watch organization, a human rights organization. It is literally an apartheid state. The only people who are holding on to the dream that it's not are either people who do not see Palestinians as humans anyway, or recognize it, but they just want to, you know, still defend it, kind of. If Palestinians had a lighter skin color, a greater majority of people would have more empathy and understanding an unfortunate reality. This is also kind of funny because what do you think Israelis look like? They look like the exact same as the Palestinians. Like, so it doesn't even matter on that front either. That is a delusional take, really? You think Israelis and Palestinians do not look alike? Really? That's what you're going to say to me? Really? So the Mizrahi Jews just, they simply have a different look than other Arabs? Is that what you're saying? No, bro, the thing about light skin, relax. No, it is important because, yes, the people that are being oppressed are Muslim, so they don't give a shit. Because they're Muslim. A big part of Israel's population is of Ashkenazi descent and is white. I'll try to find a number. No, there are plenty of Ashkenazi Jews. Ironically, Mizrahi Jews and Israeli Arabs were originally, ironically, they were also oppressed internally. And Israel had a standing opinion to at least improve their demographic look, offering up citizenship to Russians and Ukrainians and many others.
I mean, just talk about what David kind of laid out there and what you see being the next turn in Gaza.
Well, what's tragic about this case is that it's not just another round. This is not just another repeat of previous times. In Israeli psyche, this is, to a large degree, Israel's 9/11. What happened on Saturday was so barbaric and so ostentatious in Israeli minds, and we haven't even seen all the pictures yet, that the mood in Israel is very different than it's been in the past. David spoke very well about the price that Israel would pay if it went in, and especially if it stayed there. But Israel is now willing to take prices, to take costs, and to also, take prices also from the Gazans, unfortunately, that it wasn't in the past. And so we could definitely see a massive invasion. We might also see even an attempt to take down Hamas, which is something Israel has never done. Since Hamas...
The fucked upness is not about the legitimacy of militants versus apartheid. It's about killing and torturing civilians. In no way a left take. Also, the ideology of Hamas is fundamentalist fascism. Fuck them and apartheid. Brother, nobody thinks Hamas is great, okay? Or maybe some people do. I don't fucking know, okay? I don't know how many times I have to repeat this. If you want Hamas not to have any fucking power, the only way to starve Hamas out is by literally proving them wrong, okay? By stopping the apartheid, by stopping the occupation, by allowing Palestinians to live freely. Because, like I've said a million times over, the collaborative project for the Palestinian existence is the West Bank. And if you think that they are doing fine in the West Bank, you are the dumbest motherfucker I've ever seen in my entire life. Israel's own internal security apparatus has pointed to this reality. The Haaretz editorial board has pointed to this reality. The fucking father of one of the girls that was kidnapped by Hamas said this exact same thing. If people who are currently under fire, who have literally been victim to Palestinians, who are the purveyors of the apartheid state or otherwise defenders of the apartheid state, are recognizing that maybe we've gone too far, why the fuck don't you see it? Everyone wants the violence to stop. I love when people say this is Israel's 9/11. And Israel didn't stop America after 9/11, so why should America stop Israel after 9/11? Bro, you think it was good? You think what we did after 9/11 was good? Are you fucking insane? That is literally a moment for you to go, oh shit, remember what America did after 9/11 and how fucking bad it was? We probably shouldn't repeat that mistake. And so much decapitation of power and power vacuums and militant terror cells being built on top of said power vacuums, and looking at that and going, we want to do that ourselves. You're out of your fucking mind.
Hamas took over the Gaza Strip, taking Fatah out and taking over the Gaza Strip. We've seen Israel live with Hamas, of course an enemy, but at least an address they can deal with. Now, a lot of things have changed in Israel. I don't know if the government will decide to topple Hamas. It is not out of the question. It was in previous rounds. It's not today.
And Vivian, your paper has been reporting some of the origins of this. We obviously haven't quite jumped into the conversation about Iran yet at this table, but it certainly seems as though sources that are speaking to the journal, they say, from Hamas and Hezbollah, are saying that, hey, Iran was deeply involved in this.
That's right. A number of my colleagues in the Middle East reported that Iran...
What the actual fuck Hamas thought was going to happen before they attacked? No one can be this stupid. You're right, man. You're right. You know, it's a really different position than what the Palestinians are in now than before 2 days ago, when they were still having their, when they still had only, I guess, 97% of their water supply be toxic, not be able to fucking build desalination plants, not even have concrete allowed inside of Gaza, you know. Yeah, what the fuck was Hamas thinking? I guess they really miscalculated, dude. They should have asked HasanAbi instead. They should have fucking checked in with you, dog. They should have been like, hey, liberals and radical leftists in the Western sphere of influence. Is it okay if we try to violently break out of the fucking prison that we have been living in? Is that okay? Or will that fuck up your vibes, dude? Will that fuck up your vibes and ruin your plans for the weekend, I guess? You know what I mean? What the fuck should they have done? They should have checked in with you. Man, it's so crazy how Israel changed its attitude towards Palestinian existence literally after yesterday. And it wasn't actually anything like that before yesterday. It was totally fine. And all of a sudden, they're just reducing Gaza into rubble. And now you can say, don't see how killing festival goers breaking out of prison. Of course that those festival goers did not deserve to be fucking murdered. But why? What do you mean? Like, you're saying breaking out of prison, you're having a festival next to a concentration camp. They did not deserve to die, okay? You know who's responsible for that death, for every single death, though? The Israeli state that, one, allowed there to be a festival next to a concentration camp, and two, has been fucking killing the shit out of people in the West Bank for so long that they've demonstrated time and time again that they are an apartheid state and that they have no interest in collaborating with the Palestinians and want to forcibly expel them from their own fucking borders, okay? This is, once again, not my take. This is the perspective of the Israeli intelligence community. So take it up with them. So I'm glad that Israel is doing what it knows best, which is bombing the shit out of 14-year-olds and executing them. But hey, they let them know ahead of time that they were going to bomb their fucking houses. If you couldn't make it out in time, then sucks to suck, 12-year-old child that fucking exploded. Oh. Very stark contrast between the analysis you see from Western governments and politicians and what you're hearing from actual Israeli civil society, including not just the press, but security intelligence services. Exactly. For years, Tal Schneider writes, Netanyahu propped up Hamas. Now it's blown up in our faces, and the premier's policy for treating the terror group as a partner at the expense of Abbas and Palestinian statehood has resulted in wounds that will take Israel years to heal from. This is literally their side, and they still come to the largely same conclusions that dissidents have come to because they actually have a modicum of skin in the game. Israel removing the shackles off of the Palestinian people is not for the sake of humanity for the Palestinians. It is for the sake of Israeli security. Okay? At this point, it's getting to a situation that is untenable even for those who want the continuation of the Zionist project. That's it. Yeah, this was... October 7, 1944, prisoners in Auschwitz revolted. 250 died in the fighting, and the guards executed another 200 prisoners as retribution. This is the "you made me do it" logic. Yeah, of course. The thing is, do you think that the Palestinian people have no calculation? Do you think that the Palestinian people don't know how Israel will retaliate when they have retaliated in the same way time and time again? It is a constant in their lives, dude. What is this infantilizing bullshit from